Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Um, I'm back at it again, trying to share as much information as I know and experienced uh, throughout my time in prison. Uh, I constantly would struggle against officers and COs, and they had implant agents in there, like CIA, under the guise of FBI agents in there, and we'd go at it like a chess match. Uh, I would try to be defending the rights of my people, and they would obviously be trying to suppress me. And a lot of times, I would feel like they were always a step ahead, like they knew what I was gonna do. And you know, at this time, although my mind uh, was very accepting of possibilities that are out there as far as scientific studies and so on and so forth, I wasn't able to grasp the idea that somebody can be ahead of you time wise, like basically almost, tell the future. Because that sounds, at a younger age, especially when you've just been taught what they want you to know, that sounds kind of out of reach. But as time went on, and they set me up to go to the doctors, which was pretty much a science lab. I had to be moved from four different places, and three of those places I chose myself out of the circumstances that I was in, but I did choose myself. And when I got to the hospital, they were there waiting for me. Um, they had uh, a bed set up. They had special equipment set up to do these tests on me. They had doctors in place, and the nurses that worked there, they were trying to tell me like they knew you were going to come here. And at that time, I still didn't grasp it. I'm like, how would what they have known? Is this something they were doing to everybody, or that's what was going through my mind. I couldn't grasp it. And then the same thing. When I got to the yard, I started getting fights, the blackouts, I'll tell you, and people would just be there out of nowhere. And the whole time it's bothering me, like, how are these guys getting a step ahead of me? Then when I got out, I realized that if this was true, because these agents would be at spots that I'll hang out with, and I live the type of lifestyle I live. I know not to carry the same routine every day. I change it up. I change um, spots. I change the way I get home, go home, and these agents, the same guys, would be there waiting for me. So, uh, at first you're thinking, oh, they're GPS tracking you, but when they're at the restaurants and bars that you're hanging out with, and then they've been there waiting for you, and you're changing up your routine, well, then it becomes obvious that these guys somehow are a step ahead of you. And so I started thinking of, with these telecommunications things that I had figured out, and the scientific studies they were doing on me. I'm figuring out how is it possible for someone to get ahead of you. And then the women on the streets and the families, started telling me that this is something that they were experiencing also, like, and this is how they were taking advantage of them and taking their children and taking their girls to these encampments, and they weren't able to protect themselves because these guys were always a step ahead of them. And and it really angered me because I felt like they weren't defending their families. But it wasn't that. It was that these guys had figured out a way to get ahead of everybody else. So and if I wouldn't had experiences that I had myself, I would think it's unbelievable. But these people who experienced it through fear and the loss of their children, they believed it to the fullest. So I started thinking, how would this be possible? How would this be possible? So now, uh, I came up with this idea, which turns out to be true. Uh, if you have a satellite in space, the farther you get away from Earth, it's time. It takes time to get farther away. This is the space continuum. This is a real thing here. So the farther you send your satellite away from Earth, the uh, uh, ahead of farther in time you are. So, say it takes 1 minute to get um, a distance, a satellite a distance away from the Earth. Well, electronically, they can send the signal back before that minute lapses. Um, so now we'll do. It takes 2 days for a satellite to travel out, but they can send the signal back uh, way before 2 days. It'll take only minutes for them to send the signal back, but it takes days to get the satellite out. So in essence, you become ahead of time. This is reality here. Don't and and I started explaining this to some of these CIA agents that were following me around to see what kind of I was poking at the pig to see if I would get a reaction, and sure enough, they started bombarding me with women and men that were offering me money to keep quiet. And so, what at first I thought to be an idea was proven to me to be a fact. Because why would these guys be offering me money, and why would they ask me to be hush? Now, you know, be hush hush about it. Now, our families have suffered, through, uh, you know, abusing our children and being kidnapped. But even on a larger scale, these guys are taking advantage of the economy and manipulating the money, not only here in the United States but around the world. And if you notice, there's a certain amount of elite white people that have mastered, quote unquote, mastered the stock market. And if you're rich and you give them some money, they're gonna quadruple it and they'll make you a billionaire. It seems kind of odd. It's hard enough to make yourself rich, but you're out here passing out billions to people. So the storyline starts fitting in. And if you think about, like, when the bubble popped, and the gas prices, there was an issue recently with the gas prices. When the European Union was cracked, who ended up benefiting out of all of that? It's a certain entity, a certain group. So if you start putting together the threads of what's happening, you could believe this too. And a lot of youngsters that I talk to, they have a problem believing this. I'm gonna explain something about this. People that were born in the 80s, we were not attached to this phone. So it's easier for us to emotionally detach ourselves from these phones. But if I grew up with this phone in my hand, I become emotionally invested in this phone. You don't realize it, but a quick example would be if your girlfriend, or your brother or sister, they want to tap into your phone. Not only do you feel offended, but you feel it in your chest, like you've been violated. You feel it inside. That's because you're emotionally attached to this phone. Now, you might say, well, what's the problem with that? Well, the problem is that the government has manipulated that by what's called the power of association. And I'm explaining that to you. So now, say you have a cousin or an uncle by the name of Luis. When I mention the name Luis to you, you're gonna think about your cousin and your uncle. Okay? Well, over the years, these guys are studying what you're looking up, and they're studying your feed of what you see on your phone, and they're training you to have a certain reaction to certain articles, certain words. And this all connects. This comes back around. And so, what they're doing, they're pretty much they're evaluating your psychology, your psyche, and they're training you to have a reaction to certain storylines, to certain words. Especially people that have gotten this phone. They're single mothers, or people that stay away from don't have that much contact with other people. You become not only emotionally invested in this phone, but you become dependent on this phone. It's the only person, or it's your only avenue to escape. But you're not realizing And what people have been out there trying to tell you is these phones are not only are being tracked, but they're being fed the information that they want you to feed. They want to feed you, but a lot of us back in the 80s, we learned about subliminal messages in commercials. But we only used to see those commercials, um, you know, certain times each show. These subliminal messages you're carrying with you in your pocket, and you're looking at it and you're staring at it all day. And the problem is that we have children that grew up with these subliminal messages, and that has allowed the government to be able to um, curtail your emotions and your reactions. And how does that affect us today? We're in a crisis right now, and nobody's reacting. Very very few are reacting because they have us scared. The same thing with the doctor. Oh, you get sick. You feel scared. Why do you feel scared? You want to learn to feel scared. If you didn't learn it from somewhere, uh, if somebody didn't teach it to you, and where did they learn it from? We weren't scared like this before. This is a thing that happened in the last 20 something years. So we've been this phone has been teaching us things, but we haven't been realizing it because nobody has been opening our eyes to it. We've been we look at it, oh, it's just a form of to pass the time. Well, that's you pass more time with your phone than you do with your significant other, and you didn't realize it, but you have become emotionally attached. And just like an abusive boyfriend or abusive husband can play with you emotionally, this phone has the ability to do the same. And it's an unfortunate thing because really people haven't known how to put that into words and explain it in a way that uh, you open your mind to it. And a lot of people, they don't understand it off the top, and they want to dismiss you um, as rubbish when you're trying to teach them something. And a lot of times, like when I explain technology, especially that one about being able to uh, take a glimpse into the future, it's a real thing. Technology advances, and there's going to be a stage in life where we hit that, and we have already, but they've kept it a secret from us to take advantage of us. And so what they've been trying to do is, even though we have a phone, they've been trying to keep us in the ice age, and not and by doing so, being able to take advantage of our funds, our families, and pretty much the world, the worldwide stock market, which leaves us in the situation where we're at today. And so, all I ask is that you don't dismiss these ideas, and you take a look at them and evaluate them and talk to them with your family members, and uh, and bounce ideas off each other, because it's happening. You guys don't realize it, and they have us locked up, slammed down in our houses for a reason, because as soon as we start realizing what's happening, just like they play with our money, we can attack their money. And because we make them their money, we put money in their pockets. But it's only a secret if you let it be, and you don't speak about it, and you don't speak to your families about it. And that's what I have for today, man. Just open your eyes to what's going on around us. And God has brought us a blessing, the sun, and some people are trying to take advantage of that by feeding you false words, and leading you with false prophets. But there's only one God, the Son, and He has blessed us all. Take the lessons; it's the blessings. And love you guys. Peace.